Open up a tab, grab a seat, and pour a pint. It's time for the Beer Guys Radio Show.
You want free beer? Go to the brewery.
Dedicated to the art, science, and enjoyment of craft beer.
Yeah, what's wrong with the beer we got?
Now, here are your hosts, Tim Dennis and Aaron Williams.
And welcome to the Beer Guys Radio Show. Visit us online at beerguysradio.com. We are radio for the local craft beer movement. I'm Aaron Williams, and we are not broadcasting from the studios of our flagship station, AM 920 The Answer in Buckhead. Right, Tim?
That's right, Aaron. I'm Tim Dennis, and today we are broadcasting from Avondale Estates, Georgia, which is a suburb of Atlanta.
Yep.
And we are at Wild Heaven Craft Beers. We are here with Wayne Wambles from Cigar City, who's visiting today for a collaboration brew, and Eric Johnson, the brewmaster of Wild Heaven.
We've got a lot of things going on this week. We'll be talking Truck and Taps Beers of the Week. We'll also have some news and notes of a note. But first, let's talk a little bit about what happened this week. So what have you done this week? You had a busy weekend,
man.
didn't you?
A busy week. So I tripled down on anniversary parties this Saturday. So I started off at the Porter's anniversary party.
Yeah.
So they started at 11 a.m. I was there at 9 a.m. One of the fools in line waiting to get beer at 11 a.m. So
that's always good.
But they gave special gifts to the first 100 in line. So they had a special beer that they'd brewed for their event with creature comforts that they called Cthulhu's Crown, which was a sour porter with blackberries.
Nice.
So we got some of that. We were supposed to get bottles, but they said it hadn't carbonated up yet. So we got a little ticket to come back and claim our bottles later. From there, I went to Jekyll Brewing for their third anniversary. Enjoyed some of the beers there. Nice event out there in Alpharetta. And then back in town for Slice and Pints, third anniversary there. One of Crawford's restaurants, brew pubs, for pizza and beer.
And you made it back alive.
And I survived it. It's all about pacing.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. How about you? You did a little out-of-towner this week.
Yeah,
right?
I was in lovely Cleveland. I guess you can call it lovely. Actually, You know what? It's funny. Everyone makes fun of Cleveland, but it's actually a really great city.
Yes, yeah.
Have you guys ever been to lovely Cleveland before?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah, right. Okay.
That's right. And I tell you what, I went to a Hop and Frog. We landed in Canton, so we landed in Hop and Frog. You guys, Wayne.
You landed right at Hop and Frog?
No,
that's convenient.
pretty close, actually.
All right.
Yeah. It's actually right across the street from the Akron Airport. So
okay.
We were able to check that out. And they've got barrel-aged Boris, which is the Russian Imperial Stout, if you've ever heard that before.
Oh, yeah.
It's
absolutely
yeah. Fantastic. And they had about 80 million versions of that on draft and available to take home. So Wayne, you recently did a collaboration with Hop and Frog, didn't you?
Yeah. It was an Imperial Stout with coffee and licorice.
That's fantastic. They do a really nice job with their
licorice. Is a highly polarizing flavor in beers. You see
it can be, but there are different ways to get it into beer. So you could use licorice root or brewer's licorice. In this case, we ended up using brewer's licorice.
Okay.
And the idea was to incorporate it so it was sensory, it was perceptible. And sensory, but it didn't overwhelm the entire beer.
Okay.
So there was quite a bit of discussion before we agreed upon a level. But I'm happy with the end product. So
that's good. Awesome.
Yeah, very cool. We also I was also able to go to Great Lakes Brewing, of course, and that's in downtown Cleveland, which is good. They make a lot of really good, solid, and I call them drinking beers around here. They're not really crazy with their styles, but they make a good
Nothing
they
wrong
make a
with
good
that.
amber ale and all that kind of stuff. But just up the road and kind of not a more obscure part of town is a place called Platform.
Yeah.
And Platform makes some really, really good stuff. They're working really good on their sour program.
Yeah, you hooked me up with some Platform and some Edmund Fitzgerald from Great Lakes.
Yeah, that porter's really good. And they've got, Platform had it's called the Cherimoya Project. And until my wife clued me in, I never knew what a cherimoya was, but apparently it's some sort of fruit.
Custard apple.
Okay, well, there you go.
Out of the Sao Paulo market in Brazil.
Okay.
It's a really, really cool fruit, but if you get too close to the outside, it's one of the most astringent things you'll ever put into your mouth.
Yeah, Eve saw that. She was like, yo, you got to get that. I'm like, I have no idea what this is, but okay. But it's a really nice citrusy pale ale that they have, and it's got the cherimoya in there with again, some of that Meyer lemon is what they also put that in there, too.
Nice.
So that was pretty
good.
cool.
Yeah.
Definitely. So we had a good time with that and really enjoyed some things. And the paparazzi is out getting us pictures, I guess. So we feel pretty special about that.
Out here, yeah.
That's right. All right, it's time now for Truck and Taps Beers of the Week.
Crack open a cold one. It's the Truck and Tap Beer of the Week. Woo-hoo! Craft beer and food trucks in downtown Woodstock. Truckandtap.com.
So, Tim, what do we have on tap here for the Truck and Tap Beer of the Week?
So I tell you what, I'm going to pull out a beer right now that I brought as a surprise beer.
Yes.
And we're going to feature that one. I'm currently drinking Autumn Defense.
Yep, so am I.
Wild Heaven, your guys' seasonal here. And I brought this one that I had a friend bring me. And he's actually
drum roll, please.
He's actually been bugging me to see if I've drank this beer yet. So just bear with me just a second as I get it out of my cooler here.
Yeah, you're a little bit slow. This is
yes, I am a bit slow.
The tense is killing me, but that's okay.
If anybody's had this beer.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah, I was actually drinking one of these last week.
Oh, very cool. Now, Wayne, what is that?
Actually, I'm wrong. I thought this was the one we did in the Netherlands. I haven't had this beer, and I'm really excited to have this beer.
Yeah, so that's Wil Avery's a friend of mine. Now, what we're talking about here is Wayne recently went over to Ireland and brewed a beer with Galway Bay Brewery.
Yep.
For those that listen to the show, you know that Wil Avery, that used to brew with Burnt Hickory, is now the head brewer over there. So I had a friend that happened to go over. Derek, thank you for bringing this back all the way from Ireland.
Thank you very much, because I haven't had it yet.
Yeah, so that's Will's like, I don't think he's had it. So he was just texting me. Actually, Will's like, did you drink it yet? Did you drink it yet? So we're going to crack this open and drink it.
Awesome, man.
So,
that sounds like a plan to me.
You like I said, some beers from Wild Heaven, drinking their Autumn Defense, and then whatever else that we want to break out here today.
I do love surprise beer, so thank you for bringing that. I'm really excited to crack that one open. While you do so, let's go ahead and get into some news, some headlines.
What's in the news? The beer guys have the scoop.
Extra, extra, read all about it.
Time for headlines. Sponsored by Your Pie Perimeter in the Perimeter Place Shopping Center across from Perimeter Mall.
So the big news we've had so far here in Georgia Beer, at least, we've got a new brew pub coming to Atlanta. Not necessarily a big news thing. Are you having some problems, Tim?
You want to know what has just happened here is somehow the bottle opener slipped over the cap.
That's awesome.
And I'd like to state that I currently cannot even open a beer properly.
That is...
Wayne, I'm going to hand this to you.
You're a mess. You're a mess, Tim.
Do.
Absolutely. So, hey, there's a new brew pub opening in Atlanta. Now, that would not necessarily make national news. There you go.
Wayne can do it. He's a professional. That's right.
And but the gentleman that is opening the brew pub along with some partners is a big news of note. So maybe you can fill us in a little bit on what's going on, Tim.
So, yeah, some big news this week, Aaron. Something that's got the beer world a lot of discussion. There's people that are for it, against it, curious about it, don't know. Mitch Steele, the former brewmaster of Stone Brewing Company, is opening a brew pub in Atlanta.
Okay.
So he's coming there. This is the first time that someone outside of the state with no real interest in the state, I believe one of the partners is from the Atlanta area, has chosen Atlanta for any kind of brewing operation. You know, we just recently had some laws loosened a little bit where you can fill growlers at brew pubs and that. And I thought that may have had something to do with it, but I hear this has actually been in the works for a few months now. So
interesting.
This is something that's been coming, so it'll be very interesting to see what comes of that.
Yeah, we've been in touch with the PR people at for Mr. Steele and the rest of the guys. So hopefully we'll get some answers here pretty quickly. But right now it's just in the planning stages, and that is certainly a interesting development. We'll keep you on top of that. Also, no more development, too. Finally, there's going to be a brewery in Gwinnett County, amazingly enough. Slowdown gets the okay to speed up development of their brewery, and it's outside of Lawrenceville. They're going to go ahead and the Lawrenceville City Council had approved that, and so it looks like the guys at Slowdown will start to ramp things up, and I talked to them before, and they said hopefully by the end of this year they'll start brewing beer. So congratulations to them, and of course we'll keep you updated on that too. So again, as a Gwinnett County resident, I'm very happy to finally have my own brewery.
It's about time.
Because you guys take all the fun stuff, either ITP or up in the Kennesaw,
Woodstock,
area.
Kennesaw. We're actually doing okay up there for OTP.
But we're kind of in a dead zone, so it's glad to see that. So
we're in a very cool brewing area right now.
We're absolutely Avondale Estates. This is awesome. I'm really
Avondale, Decatur.
So.
You guys, this is an awesome place to be for craft beer in Atlanta area.
Definitely. And finally, down south, Macon Beer Company. We don't talk about them very often.
We don't,
but
no.
They've got a brand new brew, and they're commemorating Otis Redding's 75th birthday, and so that's going to go to charity for them. So if you're sitting by the dock of the bay down in Macon on a river somewhere, I guess there's no ocean.
Grab a beer to go your way.
There you go. That was terrible.
Sorry. I tried, man. I made an effort.
Anyway, what's about ready to wrap it up, and we'll get back to the conversation with these guys really quick.
You're listening to the Beer Guys Radio Show. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
This is Brian Roth with the Southern Brewing Company. You're listening to the Beer Guys Radio Show.
The Beer Guys are back right after this.
Morgan and Lisa with Your Pie Perimeter here. We'd like to invite you to our store for a beer.
Is there anything better than pizza?
Yep, brick oven pizza that's made fresh and paired with a cold craft beer.
That's what you get at Your Pie Perimeter, located in the Perimeter Place Shopping Center by Perimeter Mall.
It's the perfect place to relax on the patio with a pint after work or bring the family in.
Follow Your Pie Perimeter on Facebook for all our beer events and specials, including beer tastings that you won't find anywhere else.
That's Your Pie Perimeter, located in Perimeter Place Shopping Center next to Chipotle. Tell them that the Beer Guy sent you.
Hey, it's Aaron. I want to give a quick shout out to our newest sponsor. It's HopSpot Beer Tours of Atlanta. Now, there's a lot of tours out there, but what makes HopSpot Beer Tours different? Well, you get exposure. There's more to Atlanta craft beer than just breweries. A HopSpot Beer Tour gives you the who, what, where, and when to craft beer right here in Atlanta and the state. Education. Whether you're a native, a transplant, or a visitor, you'll always learn something new. And connection. HopSpot connects you to guests, local breweries, and businesses to create those lasting relationships. We invite you to check out what makes HopSpot different. Like them on Facebook, follow them on Twitter and Instagram at HopSpotATL, and of course, visit HopSpotBeerTours.com. Use promo code BeerGuys10 and receive 10% off your order. HopSpot Beer Tours. Hop on, get connected. That's HopSpotBeerTours.com.
Mark your calendars for Saturday, October 8th and Sunday, October 9th for some cool street art and cold craft beer. That's right, it's time for Chalktoberfest. Head to historic Marietta Square and join 30,000 people, 80 artists, and sample 125 different craft beers from local brewers. VIP access is also available. You won't want to miss this amazing arts festival paired with some delicious local craft beer. That's Chalktoberfest, October 8th and 9th on historic Marietta Square. Details and tickets at chalktoberfest.com, and we'll see you there.
It's Aaron and Tim, the Beer Guys. If you're like us, no lunch or dinner is complete without a pint or two of craft beer.
Which is why Truck and Tap in downtown Woodstock is always on our list. Tim, why do they call it Truck and Tap?
Well, the tap part is easy. They have 12 of them. Bottles, too. Not sure what to drink? All of their beer servers are Cicerone certified. And if you got someone who isn't a beer fan, not to worry. Truck and Tap carries wine, mixed drinks, and even handcrafted sodas.
As for the truck part, well, that's when it gets interesting. Truck and Tap features your favorite Atlanta area food trucks daily. That way, you're getting a different menu every day.
Check it out. Truck and Tap in downtown Woodstock. Truckandtap.com. Let them know that the Beer Guys sent you.
Follow the Beer Guys on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
The numbers all go to 11.
Does that mean it's louder?
Well, it's one louder, isn't it?
Now, back to the Beer Guys radio show.
And welcome back to the Beer Guys Radio Show. BeerGuysRadio.com is our website, and we are broadcasting not from our flagship studios in AM 920 The Answer in Buckhead, but we are in Avondale Estates, Georgia, with Eric Johnson of Wild Heaven and Wayne Wambles from Cigar City. They are brewing a collaboration today. Took some time out to join us. So thanks, guys, for joining us on the Beer Guys Radio Show this afternoon.
Our pleasure.
Absolutely. Now, but we've already opened the beer, which is your collaboration with Cigar City and Galway Bay that you guys brewed earlier.
This is Cigar City, Galway Bay came over here, IPA, and we were just talking about IPAs just on the break a little bit there that, Wil Avery there at Galway said that they're working to kind of change things, and I think that was one mention here is kind of bringing the American style over there across the pond, right, Wayne?
Definitely, and it's not the first time that I've been to another country, and I feel that they've benefited from hiring an American brewer. And I think that Wil will be an exceptional addition to Galway Bay Brewing.
That's very cool.
Did he make you play any disc golf while you were over there?
No. It was raining all the time.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
There you go. It's very typical for Ireland, I guess.
Yeah.
So, hey.
Now, Eric, thanks so much again for joining us. We really appreciate it. And before we get into the nuts and bolts of what's going on here, you've got an interesting background yourself. You've done a jack of all trades kind of thing, right? So kind of tell us what, on your journey, how'd you end up here?
By trade, I'm a horticulturalist. I actually worked on plant propagation, so I would clone trees for urban landscapes that were, selections that architects wanted. Did that for about a decade, and then I opened a bar in Athens called Trapeze as a hobby, and that blew up, and I found myself a full-time publican because of the time that it took to kind of wrestle that beast.
Yeah, hard to do that kind of thing part-time. One of my favorite pubs, by the way. I love Trapeze. Anytime I go over, I always make Trapeze a stop over there. So.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we were, Nick, my partner, was actually working on, he wanted to launch a craft brewery. I've been a home brewer for, 23 years now. And he had his partner, Brian Purcell, were working on a brewery called Three Taverns. And they brought me in as initially just as their brewing consultant. So we started working on test batches, and then there was a point about a year and a half into that where really just what all of us wanted to do from a beer standpoint wasn't we weren't all totally on the same page.
Right.
And so Brian plowed ahead with 3 Taverns, which is an amazing brewery. We have mad respect for those guys.
Just down the street from you guys, not too far here. Yeah.
And so then Dick and I peeled off to do Wild Heaven, which was, and I guess when we both opened, we had a number of Belgian beers in common. I wanted to also I wanted to work on American styles as well.
Okay.
And really culinary, beers that are focused around doing something that's really, nice and interesting from a culinary standpoint, as opposed to like, okay, we're just going to make Belgian beers. And of course, both breweries have changed a lot in the last however many years since we've been open. So that's how I kind of got into brewing. I wasn't. If you had asked me 10 years ago if I would own a brewery and brew for a living, I would have said you're crazy.
Wouldn't have even been there.
No.
Now I know that you did or still do host a gardening show, right? Do you still do that?
Yeah, I'm 12 plus years as the host of Garden Smart on PBS. We're on all 50 states. I think we're the most viewed gardening show on PBS.
Okay.
And I don't know how many episodes we've shot, but it's a lot.
Now I saw the promo pics on PBS's side of you. So did you have your clean cut twin do those promo shots that are on there? So
no, that's kind of actually it's funny you mentioned that, because we have a clothing sponsor, as you can imagine. So Izod furnishes the clothes for the show, which are not anything that I would ever wear outside of the show, and so everything's long sleeve shirts. There's no visible tattoos on the shirt or anything like that.
Khakis and long sleeves and clean cut.
And even
the PBS crowd wouldn't necessarily go for that, right? Sometimes that's right.
I'd say our demographic is not as into that.
Yeah.
So I even have sweater vest, and there's some terrible things that happen there too.
Well, that's a fine-looking young man.
That's right. Yeah, it's a nice clean-cut young man working in that beer business. It's crazy. So hey, listen, we'll link to this article too. But just recently, Austin Lewis Ray, a good friend of the show here, had a great article on you and the rise of emergency drinking beer.
Yeah.
And that's really kind of propelled your growth over the past year here at Wild Heaven. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, that was a beer that it was a collaboration with me and really with the whole team at Victory Sandwich Bar.
Yep.
Those guys are really good friends, and Ian and Paul had the idea that hey, we want a local craft beer that kind of falls into the category of just a really accessible session beer.
Yeah.
That would not be unfamiliar to someone who would order a Budweiser, but also was not outside of the parameters of where a craft drinker would say, okay, yeah, that's a legit craft beer. And it's a pretty tricky beer to engineer. There were a lot of test batches. Making something a little 4%. Light beer is really, really hard. There's nothing to hide behind. Anything subtle that shifts in the way that the yeast metabolism goes, or any changes in your hops, everything is, it's
so pronounced. Yeah.
Hard beer to make.
Yeah.
We thought it was just going to be a beer that we'd make a couple tanks of, and Victory would buy most of the inventory, and obviously you guys know that's not what happened. And now it's everywhere, and it's a decent chunk. It's probably half of what we produced.
Well, that was going to be one of my questions. Is did you guys see that coming? Basically, you kind of answered that. No, you thought you'd do a little bit. So
there may have been some optimism in the group that guessed that, but
we've had a lot of talks with beer geeks that we'll say here, and they talk about the guys that chase a Cherimoya IPA, this and that, the barrel aged this and that. So, but there's in all honesty, there's a lot larger market out there for people who just want a drinking beer.
Right.
So that's do you think that's where the appeal of this came from? It's just something you can sit down and drink. You don't have to think about what tones and notes you get in it and try to guess which market the fruit came from or anything.
Right. I think that it met the broader. It's not a geek beer. We never pretended. It's kind of almost ironically hipster in some ways. We never intended to be a geek beer. And you're right. When you look at the percentage of all beer drinkers, even craft beer drinkers, that only hunt whales, it's a really, really small sliver of the market. And most people, most days, I find myself, it's almost never that I'm like, all right, I want to drink an 8% beer or 10% beer. And, I kind of gravitate, especially as I get older, and, I want like the 4 or 5, maybe a 6% beer, but I think as a beer market matures, people move away from, this is a 14% whatever, and then list like a bunch of Starbucks sounding ingredients, and what they want is something that's elegant and refined and nice, but also lower gravity. And so elegance and nuance ends up winning in mature beer markets. And I think we're seeing that in Georgia, that when the laws changed in 2004, I remember like this whole dynamic at Trapeze where you put Avondale Estates on draft or Sammy Claus, and you could plow those kegs as fast as you could hook them up. And now you go back to any of these these super beer centric bars, you'd almost never see those beers on draft. And I don't think that's because they've fallen out of favor from a flavor standpoint. I think it's because most people are not looking for a 14% beer.
Exactly. Yeah.
Sure. It's tough. I mean, I talked about this weekend going to the anniversary parties and that. And, we start off with this sour porter, then a 13%er from Prairie, and this and that. You either have to drink very small amounts, or you need to catch a seat and stay there a while. It's something, if you just want to take it easy, like a day like today, we're out on your patio here. It's a warm day, and that we're not going to be breaking out huge stouts today.
Yeah, exactly. The barrel-aged stout's going to stay at home for a little while, but good Pilsner, a nice emergency drinking beer. This nice Phaethon, is that how you pronounce
Correct,
it?
Yeah.
Okay, I actually did it right.
It's roughly based upon Icarus.
Okay. The Phaethon IPA. Yeah,
but it's a different culture. It's a similar story, but it's a different culture.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, excellent. Well, we're going to talk more about beer, maybe have some more beer, and go from there. You're listening to the Beer Guys Radio Show, beerguysradio.com, and we'll take a break. Be back right after this.
Hey, this is Brian Purcell with Three Taverns Craft Brewery, and you're listening to Beer Guys Radio.
The Beer Guys are back right after this. The Beer Guys Radio Show on the Beer Guys Radio Network. BeerGuysRadio.com.
Morgan and Lisa with Your Pipe Perimeter here. We'd like to invite you to our store for a beer.
Is there anything better than pizza?
Yep. Brick oven pizza that's made fresh and paired with a cold craft beer.
That's what you get at Your Pipe Perimeter, located in the Perimeter Place Shopping Center by Perimeter Mall.
It's the perfect place to relax on the patio with a pint after work or bring the family in.
Follow Your Pipe Perimeter on Facebook for all our beer events and specials, including beer tastings that you won't find anywhere else.
That's Your Pipe Perimeter, located in Perimeter Place Shopping Center next to Chipotle. Tell them that the Beer Guy sent you.
Mark your calendars for Saturday, October 8th and Sunday, October 9th for some cool street art and cold craft beer. That's right, it's time for Chalktoberfest. Head to historic Marietta Square and join 30,000 people, 80 artists, and sample 125 different craft beers from local brewers. VIP access is also available. You won't want to miss this amazing arts festival paired with some delicious local craft beer. That's Chalktoberfest, October 8th and 9th on historic Marietta Square. Details and tickets at chalktoberfest.com, and we'll see you there.
Ahoy there, mateys! Hunting whales? We've got you covered with Tim's Whale of the Week.
All right, Tim, Whale of the Week, what you got?
All right, we've got a couple that are pretty limited releases, and if you want to get your hand on these, you're going to have to go to the brewery or the brew pub. First one we've got, Southern Brewing Company is releasing their single barrel stout tomorrow. So they're doing that at the brewery. Go over there, check it out. We tried their multi-barrel stout when they were in the studio. It's fantastic, so one to check out there. And Slice and Pint is going to release their Jack Daniel's Barrel Aged Triple. So that's one that, again, we tried the Calvados Barrel Age. Crawford was nice enough to give us a bottle of that. Yep. This is the same beer, but Jack Daniel's barrel. So you have to go to Slice and Pint to get that. They're actually doing a pre-sale, very limited number of those. Okay. So those are, I think that would hit true well. I think there's only like 48 bottles of that one available. So
excellent.
So that's it, man. That's what we got.
Lots of whales out there, bro. So hey, we're back with Eric Johnson and Wayne Wambles. Of course, Eric from Wild Heaven and Wayne from Cigar City. They're up doing a collaboration. We'll talk a little bit about that here in just a second. But first, again, a little bit more with Eric. Lots of cans rolling down the pike. I'm seeing you just canning EDB like crazy, emergency drinking beer, and you've got some more. Is that kind of where you're going right now with some more can versions?
Yeah, we're kind of done with 12-ounce glass. And there are a lot of reasons for that, not the least of which is that the city of Atlanta is not recycling glass.
Right. Yeah.
And just where I think consumer sentiments are. You probably saw the Nitro Eau de Mercy. So we're going to release nitrogenated Eau de Mercy in cans. That'll be packaged probably tomorrow. And so we've got a really cool liquid nitrogen doser.
Okay.
That we're going to use to make this, and we're going to use liquid nitrogen basically in all of our beers to evac oxygen.
So is that a widget thing like some of the others do in the can, or is it's done like that and then canned with it in there?
It injects the liquid nitrogen into, so you set your CO2 level. All nitrogenated beers have some CO2 level.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So you set your desired CO2 level in the bright tank, so you're packaging at a much lower level. And then you set your liquid nitrogen dose. So nitrogen in a liquid state is extremely cold, so it breaks, it goes through a phase change, even if your beer's 30 degrees, it's going to go through a phase change very quickly. And so we allow the cans to then warm up to room temperature so that, all the liquid converts into a gas. And it's pretty impressive. You get a nitro can that pours a lot like the widget cans.
Very cool.
It's
awesome.
The whole thing, though, is it's sort of like the left-hand milk stout. Mm-hmm. It's the whole pour hard thing.
Okay.
So since you don't have the widget, you pour hard. And that's what gives you that effect.
Yeah, you got to pour it down the middle of the glass.
Okay. You don't want to go soft and gentle like 45-degree angle and then
45 and then tilt it up. Exactly.
Pour hard.
Just do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just good deal.
So that'll be coming out fairly soon. But yeah, we'll continue doing 500 ml and 750 milliliter glass on the specialty stuff. But as far as any year-round stuff, all of that's going to be in cans. So we'll see invocation cans soon. We're working on the art on those.
Very cool. So back up, you just mentioned your special release bottles, and Eric, you actually just opened one up for us before we started this segment. So we are currently drinking Emmy Lou, which is phenomenal. What can you tell us about this beer?
Okay, so Tim, it's a blend of 5 different beers. So we've got well over 100 wooden barrels that are part of our sour program. And this particular beer is a blend of barrels that had cantaloupe, Asian persimmon, golden gooseberry, kumquats, and d'Anjou pears, all in French Bordeaux. The oldest barrels were around 2 years old. The youngest ones were about 14 months. And so we spent quite a bit of time working out the exact ratios that we were going to use to blend that beer. And we're hand bottling it because we can't bear the thought of losing any of it.
Right. Every bit you can in bottles, sure enough.
Yeah, so I'm not sure when that's going to be released. Maybe a month from now or so.
That's awesome. We were just mentioning the tasting notes here. When you first take a sip, you get a very nice tartness. It's really complex, and that kind of fades away to the vanillins from the barrel, the oakiness there. The cantaloupe's definitely there. Comes on the back end. A little more tartness, fruity. I guess kind of a lime lemon. Not really like an orangey citrus, but more that side of citrus. But it's super complex and very delicious. So thanks for sharing that.
Oh, absolutely. Glad you guys like it.
Definitely. Now, one thing I really enjoy from you too is one of your newest beers that what is your Wise Blood IPA. It's the first IPA that you've done. Tell us a little bit about the background of that. It's a really nice, approachable, more of a northeastern style IPA. Is that what you guys were aiming for?
Yeah, I wanted to. Wayne and I were talking about this a lot. He makes one of my favorite IPAs in the world. I think it's
me too.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Thank you. It was
that's awesome. Yeah,
very kind of you.
Oh man. Well, that beer was a bit of a challenge. There was I don't remember the exact number of test batches, but it was just south of 50 that went into designing it, and we did a lot of blind tasting panels with that beer, and so I kind of took like my Eric approach to making a beer, which was a very non-traditional version of whatever that style is, and in the blinds, what I discovered was that there's 3 basic categories of IPA, and so you got the West Coast ones,
the classic
the
piney,
Gen 1,
yeah,
and then you've got the New England ones, and then you've got the really tropical, lush, juicy categories. If you put something that's outside of those 3 categories, and especially in the context of a blind tasting, there's very little acceptance for it whatsoever. It was either that it's not an IPA, or people couldn't put it into a basket, and so first what I had to do was like punt on whatever all of that was I was working on, and figure out first how to just brew that style, because I never did, like as a home brewer with a lot of batches of beer. I just never really made IPAs. I was the guy that said we never would make an IPA.
Never say never, Eric.
Yeah,
That's right.
I know. I was totally wrong about that. But I had to figure out, okay, how do we brew the style of beer first?
Yep.
Get the water chemistry right. Hop additions. It was like a lot of different little iterations on our one barrel system. And then we kind of landed with what we liked from a standpoint of launching it. That's a beer, though, honestly, that every single batch that's ever been made, we have tweaked it in subtle ways, which I approach a number of our beers that way. I think that it's okay to get something far enough along where you're proud of it, you love it, but then also just with the evolution of ingredients that occurs and just what we learn, we hopefully are better at brewing next year than we are right now today, and so with Wise Blood we're still like little teeny tweaks where like, okay, I want a little bit softer mouthfeel, I want better aromatics in the next batch, so on and so forth, where we I want the beer to if someone tries it tomorrow, I hope that they love it and think it's a fantastic beer. If they try it next year, I hope that it's even that much more of what they liked the first time they tried it.
And that can be tricky from a commercial standpoint because let's say someone tries the beer today and it's their perfect beer. They absolutely love it. Then they, for whatever reason, they don't have it for 6 months or a year or whatever. They try it again and they say, well, this isn't the one I had a year ago. So it's I'm imagining for you it's a balancing act, right?
Yeah, we don't ever change a beer so much that most anyone would notice. I think we get really granular about what we're tasting, and it's as simple as and Wayne knows this so well. Like you've probably drank thousands of highlights,
Sure.
And every single time, the more time that you spend with a beer, you're like, yeah, there's that thing in the finish that's like a little woody, and I'm not liking that as much. And it's probably something that you never really liked anyways. Engineering those things in and out of a beer is a very, very subtle little step and change that I would say most beer drinkers they never really detected it, or there's no vocabulary to explain what that was. So the things that I tweak are, it's not that we've changed the nature of the aromatics, but we simply have made them more aromatic, or maybe things like mouthfeel that matter a lot to me. Like how does the beer sit with people? The flavor of it is still pretty nearly dead on what you had the first time.
Right.
And so it's more getting into the real subtle nuances of,
Because, you're brewing with an agricultural product. You're
right.
You're going to have little changes from batch to batch, season to season. Like in wine, it's celebrated. The differences you get from
year to year. Yeah.
Craft beer, not so much. But
it all depends, though.
Yeah, it can be depending on the beer. So like one that Wayne, you do the Hunapoos.
Exactly.
That's one that's an annual release. There's definitely different nuances to it.
Sure.
But people appreciate and say, well, there's a little more pepper in this. I get a little more chocolately. A little more of this or that there. So
exactly. That's the prime example that I was thinking of right off the top of my head. Yeah.
I think there's an important distinction between beer and wine, which is that beer, while there is an agricultural component, it is a culinary thing. Wine is agricultural.
Right.
Yep. Wine is this cultivar of grape, and what comes into play is rainfall, terroir, and whether or not the winemaker is any good at making wine.
True.
But with beer, it has more in common with making a soup, or it's culinary. And most of like the base malts that we're using, even the hops, they are consistent enough that for the most part, if you're making a beer a certain way and you don't deviate from that, it should be pretty dead on.
We take it a step further. We're bigger, so like next week I'll be in Washington State picking our lots for next year.
Right.
Yeah.
But we're looking for like a specific thing, and when you're large enough to be able to select like that, it really helps to give your beers more identity. Like,
sure.
Because Simcoe is a hop that is like strongly drives High. So we're selecting for a specific traits of Simcoe, specific traits for Citra, specific traits for certain things. Like we don't want onion, we don't want the cat urine thing, we don't want the dank Kush thing. We're looking for a super bright tropical.
the wrong selection, you get all those traits. That could be just a horrible beer. Dank cat urine, onion there, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah.
Definitely the opposite of High Life.
Yeah.
So, there you go.
Guys, we need to take another quick break. You are listening to the Beer Guys Radio Show. We are talking to Wayne Wambles from Cigar City, Eric Johnson from Wild Heaven, and we'll be right back.
Hello, everybody. This is Larry WACHS from the WACHS Modcast, Atlanta's #1 smartphone radio show. And I've been drinking beer with the Beer Guys on Beer Guys Radio. And I want to know why I have 11 fingers all of a sudden.
The Beer Guys are back right after this.
It's Aaron and Tim, the Beer Guys. If you're like us, no lunch or dinner is complete without a pint or two of craft beer.
Which is why Truck and Tap in downtown Woodstock is always on our list. Tim, why do they call it Truck and Tap?
Well, the tap part is easy. They have 12 of them. Bottles, too. Not sure what to drink? All of their beer servers are Cicerone certified. And if you got someone who isn't a beer fan, not to worry. Truck and Tap carries wine, mixed drinks, and even handcrafted sodas.
As for the truck part, well, that's when it gets interesting. Truck and Tap features your favorite Atlanta area food trucks daily. That way, you're getting a different menu every day.
Check it out. Truck and Tap in downtown Woodstock. Truckandtap.com. Let them know that the Beer Guys sent you.
Follow the Beer Guys on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Now, back to the Beer Guys Radio Show.
Oh, God, here we go again. Dork alert.
And welcome back to the Beer Guys Radio Show. I'm Aaron Williams, and coming up in just a little bit, we'll have a giveaway to give away and tell you what's on the hot list. But first, we are wrapping up with Eric Johnson from Wild Heaven here at Avondale Estates, and also Wayne Wambles from Cigar City Brewing down in Tampa. So, with that in mind, what exactly are you doing here, Wayne? What are you guys up to?
Well, I've admired this guy for a while. I came here a while back and started looking at what he was doing, and I'd actually never heard of Wild Heaven or Eric Johnson, and John Roberts said you have to meet this guy. You guys have something in common. So he brings me by here, and I start looking at the place, and I finally meet this guy, and I'm like, man, this is ridiculous. Like this is pretty amazing what's going on.
Yeah.
And one of the first things he puts in front of me that kind of blows my mind is he brings out this 100% smoked malt beer that's been aged in barrels and then secondary fermentation with Brettanomyces, which is basically metabolizing the phenols from the smoked malt and neutralizing them and creating these esters in the flavor profile. And at first he's like, you gotta try this 100% smoked malt beer, and I'm thinking, no,
no smoked malt. Exactly.
Is that Funkin' Rock?
Yeah.
Is that okay? Yeah.
But he brings it out, and it's like, man, this is fabulous. Like this is a really great beer. And that's kind of like how the whole thing began. And he was also at these guys are at Hunapu Day this year, and I got to catch up with him a little bit more there, and just kept saying we have to make something.
Very cool.
And ended up thinking for like probably 6 months or so, trying to figure out what we could do, because it had to be something that I felt like represented both of us, but also I felt like it had to be something that had some Southern culture stamp, like it epitomized or somehow represented the South, because we're both from the South. I'm from Alabama and he's from Georgia, so we ended up the main component is scuppernong and muscadine,
nice,
which are very indigenous.
Yep.
And I recall, like being a child and eating these things. So it goes like right down to my core of living in this area. So basically, it's a gold-colored beer, gold distraught colored beer. Starts out that way, goes through a primary fermentation with Saccharomyces, and then will be aged in gin, cognac, and white wine barrels, and then will be inoculated with 2 different types of Brett. One type of Brett for the scuppernong and one type of Brett for muscadine, specifically chosen because they'll produce esters that will create other layers on top of the fruit that we're adding to each series of barrels. And then there will be a third thread that will be a combination of those two. And hop bill is actually specific for each of those 3 threads. and the hop bill is also complementing that fruit specifically in each of the 3 threads. And then the master thread will be a blend of all 3 threads.
That's something. Wow.
I'm blown away already.
This is another beer that we were talking about. It's ready when it tells you it's ready, right? So,
yeah, there's no release date on this. It'll be just the point at which Wayne and I collectively believe that it's done, and I would say probably spring at the earliest on this one.
Awesome.
One fun thing we're going to do too is mainly because Wayne and I are geeks, and these are the kind of things that we think are fun. I want to release little 500 ml bottles of each of the individual beers.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Yeah. And so that people can taste like, okay, here's what we were thinking with. So this is Brett Lambicus. This is the Orchard Brett. This is Scuppernong. This is Muscat. All the different. It'll be at least 3 of them. There may be more by the time it's all said and done. Because I think blending beer it's something that I'm very passionate about, and I think for people to understand that, that we're viewing, Wayne and I are viewing all these individual threads as almost like independent ingredients that are added together to add different layers of nuance. But I think for people to be able to taste, okay, here's all these individual components, and here's why we did this, because they're all very intentional. And then when you put all these together, you get this wonderful harmony of these bright high acid notes, these more mellow tannic notes, so on and so forth, and seeing all that come together, I think it'd be really, really fun for people to be able to taste the finished product, and then all the
components together. Yeah.
I'm a cigar guy, and I went to a tasting seminar one time where they took the individual leaves and rolled them into small cigars, and you tasted each individual leaf, and then you tasted the cigar where they wrapped them all and let those ferment together. And it was interesting to see that you could pick out those different notes from each leaf once you put them all together, but you may not have noticed that, unless you tried each leaf itself. So
in that way you experience the cigar in a different way,
right.
And that's what I want people to do with this beer, is to be able to, and there won't be many, maybe 200 bottles a piece of the individuals, but I'd like for people to be able to experience all the different things that Wayne and I have done to make that beer what it is.
Very awesome.
All about layers.
Yeah.
But the 3 threads will also be, I think, very educational too. And I think anytime you can make a beer and educate people, that's awesome.
No, I think that's a really good idea. So, Eric, just to wrap it up with you here, just a couple minutes left. Anything else coming down the pike for you guys?
Well, we got a big Russian Imperial Stout that's made with raspberries and cocoa nibs that were smoked over pecan wood that has also been barrel aged, and it's called Gravitational Wave. I hope that beer will come out. It might be released as early as Halloween. Just a big, thick, viscous Russian Imperial Stout.
That sounds pretty perfect, yeah.
And then beyond that, we've got Joni, which is more or less a creek. It's a cherry sour beer that's 3 different blonde bases, all in Bordeaux barrels. We'll have Lucenda, which is a blend of 7 different dark fruit. And then Mavis, which is a blend of 13 different herbs and spice barrels. Some of those are bizarre, like mint, green cardamom, like basically lambic bases that are made with those herbs and spices. It tastes a lot better than it sounds.
Very cool.
No, I'm all about that.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. And a little teaser here for those that are following us along. We're going to talk to Wayne a little bit more. We'll be launching a new show in mid-October called On Tap with the Beer Guys, and we're going to talk to Wayne a little more in depth here. So tune into that show and check it out. If you are one of our Patreon supporters, you actually get a sneak peek at that show before other folks.
That's very exciting.
Check us out on patreon.com.
Definitely.
And we'll follow up with Wayne here in just a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Eric and Wayne, again, thanks for joining us here today. Appreciate it. So, Tim, before we get to the hot list, you had an interesting conversation today with the Free the Hops guys over in Alabama.
We reported not too long ago that the Alabama ABC was looking at some new regulations because they've recently got the right to do to-go sales. Package and growlers, from the breweries there. And there's a limited daily limit that they can sell. And what the ABC was looking at is a way of tracking this. They were looking to get your name, address, phone number, just all of your personal, all this personally identifiable information. So that was their proposal, is that they were going to do this. Well, they put this up for a 45-day comment period for public comment, and that's ended recently. And they basically just took all the public comments, all these public comments that said that they didn't think it was a good idea, and they threw them out the window.
Of course.
So what they've decided to do, they toned it down just a little bit, but they are going to collect your name and date of birth when you do a purchase at a brewery there. So this is something that the ABC has said that they will vote on in their their session in 2 weeks, and they've already said they intend to vote yes on it.
So still kind of a pain, but a little bit less of a pain.
A little bit less of a pain. There's other details that still, like I said, I just spoke to Nick briefly. It was in the car at the time, so we'll fill in the blanks when we can.
Yep.
But it does look like in Alabama you will have to give your name and date of birth and ID to make a purchase at a brewery.
What's wrong with the beer we got, Tim?
That's right. Drink's pretty good.
That's right. Hey, now let's go ahead and get into this week's Hot List.
Time for the Hot List. The beer guys have the scoop on what you need to know for next week.
That's hot.
So what have we got for the Hot List in Georgia,
Tim? Busy stuff, man. So later today, go over to Oktoberfest at Torch Top.
There you go.
Scofflaw's grand opening today, so you want to check that out. They've been around town getting people to try their beers. Official brewery open. So they've decorated it to feel like a very welcoming prison lunch yard.
A welcoming prison.
Yes, exactly.
Does that exist? Okay.
Tomorrow, Inceptus Sunday over at 3 Taverns. And Europe Pie Perimeter has a little family event. Kids pizza party there. Fun for the kids. Grab you a beer.
I think it'll make the girls.
Having all the kids out there so much more tolerable. So
usually a couple of beers.
Aaron, go get you some pizza and beer, man. You deserve it. So.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
And then next Friday, beer and cheese pairing at Abbey of the Holy Ghost. Next Saturday, Red Brick celebrates 23 years. There's tons of Oktoberfest parties. Terrapin over in Athens has their Hop Harvest Festival, and the Conyers Craft Beer Fest.
Excellent. A couple of things in Alabama. Pints for a Purpose. That's going to be at Psychology Bicycles in Birmingham on Thursday. They're going to fundraise for the Appalachian Mountain Bike Club, which helps do some bike trails along the Appalachian Trail in those areas, too. Also, Campus 805 in Huntsville. That's where Yellowhammer Brewing and Straight to Ale and some others are there. They're having the hottest weekend of the year fest. They've got some hot pepper, chili-type beers that are going to be released there. So if you dare, go check that out. Again, that's on Friday in Huntsville, Campus 805 from 6 to 9 p.m. Real quick, giveaway to give away. Who do we got?
We have a giveaway to give away. Our winner this week is Eric Herndon.
Congratulations, Eric.
Congratulations. Drop us an email to beerguys@beerguysradio.com, and we will get a very awesome swag pack out to you. Aaron, if someone wants to be entered to win a Beer Guys Radio swag pack, what should they do?
Well, Tim, it's easy. All you have to do is head to beerguysradio.com and go ahead and sign up for This Week in Georgia Beer. You'll not only get some awesome news on what bottle releases and happenings around Georgia Beer for the week, but you'll also be entered to win our awesome swag pack. So that's all the time we got for today. Coming up next week, we have got Nick Tanner from Cherry Street Brewing, one of my favorite breweries, OTP. Very exciting. He's going to join us in the studios. So thanks for listening. Have a great week, and don't forget, drink local.